So let's look at the second method of texturing objects in Blender. It's a bit more complex, but you're going to get the hang of it pretty quick, and it's going to give you precise control over where and how the images are displayed on your model. And so it's worth looking into. It's worth going ahead and finishing out the rest of this tutorial. If you're just new and you're learning how to do texturing, you're going to learn a lot about that's going to really make a difference in your renderings in the future. The first thing that you want to do is you want to create a new UV map. Okay. And so I'm going to select the box, go into the data tab, and down here you can see UV map. So we're going to add a UV map, and we're going to double click on it, change the name. I'm just going to call this, let's call this main texture. Alright. Now we're going to change our layout view. Go into UV editing. Alright. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up an image over here that that contains the texture that we want. So I'm going to click open. Go to my special file, and which one is that? A JPEG. Okay. Zoom out so we can see it a little bit better. And this is an image that I prepared before the tutorial, just in Photoshop. It has the same paper we used before, but I went ahead and put some stamps on it over here that I made, and then I put sort of some side flaps or side wrapping right here, and this fragile stamp on the top. And that's because I want some options on what it's going to look like on this box. So what we need to do now is we need to take our three-dimensional image, and we need to somehow open it up so that it becomes a flat, so it's flat and two-dimensional and can rest on top of a two-dimensional image. And what we call that is we say that we're unwrapping the object. It's like if you had a box and you needed to do a spray painting project, and so you were going to cut up your box so that you could sort of lay it out flat on your front lawn and spray paint something on. Basically, we're looking at our model and we're saying, how can I cut this thing up so it will lay out flat? And that's what unwrapping is about. But before I unwrap the object, I'm going to need greater precision in this model in order to be able to put some things in, like the shipping label. And so the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm going to subdivide 3 times. All right. There's 2 methods for unwrapping the box that I'm going to cover. The first one is called marking seams. Okay, and what that basically means is I'm going to select the edges of the box that I would like Blender to cut. I'd like it to cut along these edges when it's unwrapping this model. So if you've ever seen a box, if you've ever gone to U-Haul because you had to move and you bought one of their boxes, then you're seeing it, it's cut up in a way that it can be stored flat, and then you sort of fold it together to get it to take on its three-dimensional form so you can put things in it. And that is exactly what we are doing here. We're just looking at this and saying, if I cut along here, will it all just sort of fall flat? Now, I hope I've got it here. I think that'll work. Okay. So then the next thing I do is come over to the shading and UVs tab, and I'm going to mark the seam. So wherever I have selected here, it's going to mark it as a seam, with a bit of a darker orange color. So if I hit A and deselect everything, it still maintains that reddish, orangish color there. That tells us where the seam is. And so I'm going to tell Blender to go ahead and cut all of that out. And the way I do it is I tell it to unwrap it. Unwrap this box. And then it's going to bring it right over onto the image. And somehow we've lost the image, so I'm going to bring it back. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. So here we go. Unwrap. Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you. You need to select. You need to select all of the parts that you want unwrapped. Okay. All right. I'm going to tell it to go ahead and unwrap. Okay. So it did it. It cut our box out exactly the way we wanted. Now, looking at this, on the left-hand side, basically each one of these faces on the left-hand side represents one of the faces that's over on the actual model. But we can't really tell which is which on there. One thing that's going to help us is to change our viewport shading, change it to texture, and then it's going to start to show us where everything is on there. Another thing that will help us isolate which of these faces represent which faces on here is to deselect over here, and then just select. I did that by hitting C, by the way. I got this special selector that came up. And then that's going to show us which of these we're working with. Now, from my camera view, all right. So this is one of the sides where I want to see a flap, or I want to see the folds. So I'm going to hit S for size and X because I want it to resize on the X-axis because I'm looking for more of a square shape. Then I'm going to hit S again and just pull out to make it a little bigger. G to grab it. Bring it over here to this place, this special place here. Hit S to resize again. And then I'm just going to try to put it squarely on these folds. Oops. All right, that looks pretty good. Oh, except look at that. It's sideways from what I want. That's something you have to really watch for in your UV window. Is that sometimes it looks like everything's fine, but all of the faces are actually turned at a 90-degree angle. So now that I've got this side all selected, I'm gonna hit R to rotate and 90, and I'm checking to see. I kind of want this top flap. Or this flap that's on top of the other flap to be at the top of my box, the top half of my box. Right here, it's at the bottom half of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and hit R again and go 180, flip it all the way around, and now it's giving it to me the way I want here. So SY is going to size it down a bit, SX, size it on the X-axis, and that looks pretty good. Just be a little bit of a perfectionist here. All right, great. Moving on. I'm going to go to the other side of the box. I'm going to hit A to deselect all the faces on the other side. C to select the faces on this side. That reveals which ones they are. A to select the representative faces over here in the UV window. And then G to pull them over. Now this time I'm going to pay attention from the beginning which direction they're facing. And R90, that looks right. G, then SX to give us more size on the X-axis. G. Go, G. Y. All right, not gonna be a perfectionist. It looks all right. Great. So the two sides of our box is now accurate. And now what we need to do is take care of the front side. I'm hitting A to deselect, and I'm going to select the front part of the box. This is the part that I want to have the stamps on it. So A selects all, G. That looks actually correct. So I just need to get these representative faces. I need them to be in the shape of a square, and I need them to be a little bigger. Stamps are a little smaller in comparison. That looks all right. Okay. Very good. And now I will deselect that, select the top. All right, now I got to put the fragile on there. A, grab. Looks like it's going the right direction. So put it in kind of a square, size it up, and look like this. Alright, looks pretty good. Alright, now I could also work with the other two sides of the box, but to be honest, I'm not really concerned about them. Can't even see them without the lights. So we're just going to leave this like this for now. Alright, cool.